Why power always returns to the Mediterranean. Power does not move randomly. It returns. And it returns to the same places. Not because of tradition, not because of memory, but because certain regions never stop exerting pressure on human systems. The Mediterranean is one of those regions. This is not a story about the past. It is a description of a condition. This is ACHRONIC, history, geography, and power, beyond time. Power is often described as ambition, as conquest, as decision. But power is rarely created where it is seen. It settles where conditions allow it to endure. Power is often explained through memory, through stories of rise and fall, through narratives that give meaning to repetition. But repetition does not require memory. It requires structure. When the same conditions remain active, the same outcomes reappear, even when no one remembers what came before. Power returns not because it recalls the past, but because the terrain continues to impose the same pressures. Some regions attract influence repeatedly, across centuries, across systems, across names that change while structures remain. This repetition is not coincidence. It is not cultural preference. It is not memory. It is position. Power does not choose places. It responds to them. It gathers where movement converges, where access overlaps, where distance compresses. Density does not create power by itself. It amplifies it. When multiple routes coexist in close proximity, control cannot be absolute. It must be negotiated. This negotiation produces hierarchy, not through dominance, but through position. Where movement overlaps, influence accumulates by necessity. The Mediterranean is not a center of power. It is a field of pressure, a space shaped by proximity, by fragmentation, by constant negotiation between land and sea. Nothing here is isolated. Nothing here is distant for long. Movement in this space is dense. Routes intersect frequently. Alternatives exist, but none are absolute. This density produces friction, and friction produces relevance. Where movement concentrates, control becomes unavoidable. Not control over everything, but control over passage, over timing, over access, over delay. Power here does not require dominance, it requires leverage. Leverage emerges when no route stands alone. Coastlines divide and connect simultaneously. Waters shorten distance without eliminating constraint. Passages narrow choice without closing it entirely. Every movement here approaches something else. This proximity forces interaction. Interaction forces negotiation. Negotiation produces influence. Power grows not by expansion, but by entanglement. Systems arrive believing they will organize the region. Instead, the region reorganizes them. Authority adapts to circulation. Administration bends to geography. Control redistributes itself constantly. Systems often assume that power requires a center, a capital, a fixed point. But enduring power does not depend on permanence of location. It depends on continuity of access. When one center weakens, another emerges nearby, within the same field of pressure. The center shifts, but the system remains intact. No single position remains central for long, because no position remains uncontested. Relevance shifts. Pressure relocates, but the structure persists. What appears as stability is temporary. What appears as decline is often displacement. Power does not disappear from this space. It repositions. Even when authority withdraws, conditions remain. Access persists. Proximity endures. Pressure accumulates again. They wait. Collapse affects institutions. It disrupts authority. It ends administration. But conditions do not collapse. They remain active, ready to shape whatever structure replaces the previous one. Power does not rebuild from zero. It resumes from where conditions never stopped operating. Power persists in places where uncertainty is managed rather than eliminated, where no single route dominates long enough to become absolute, where access is always partial, contested, and negotiated. In such spaces, authority cannot freeze movement. It can only influence its tempo. It can slow it, redirect it, or tax it, but never remove it entirely. This continuous negotiation prevents collapse from becoming absence. It transforms endings into reconfigurations. Power remains present, even when it appears diminished, because the conditions that sustain it never withdraw. This is why power returns, not because it was lost, but because it never belonged to any one structure. It circulates. It settles where movement cannot avoid itself. The Mediterranean does not preserve empires. It preserves the conditions that make concentration of power unavoidable. Those conditions survive every name, every system, every collapse. Power returns here because this space offers something rare: connection without unity, constraint without closure, access without stability. What history records as repetition is simply geography continuing to operate.